Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this week's Fangs for the Fantasy, our weekly podcast where we discuss urban fantasy in books, TV, films, and anything else we can get our hands on. We're running a little late today because of the evil thing that is time zones, for which I blame daylight savings, which is a pain in the backside. Apparently, all you people over the Atlantic don't go forwards and backwards at the same time as we do, which means you are wrong, of course.
Oh, you're so whiny.
So, speaking of wrong, hi Renee.
Hello, whiny one.
Well, your clock should have gone back an hour this weekend as well. That's the rule.
No. Sorry.
Well, that's just shameful. Because we are running late and we try and pack it all in, should we hit the ground running with Walking Dead?
Sure.
They are really pushing this. We're definitely into this whole, what have we become? What lines will we cross? Are we evil? What kind of people we're going to be meme this season? I think it's definitely going to be the theme of the season.
I guess it's all about lines, right?
Yeah.
You have to do a lot to survive, so you have to decide what you will and will not do to survive.
Exactly, and I think it's all about where those lines go and how far are you going to go. And ultimately, it's if you cross too many, are you going to become like the Terminus people who have basically been executed because they are too... They can no longer be trusted alive anymore. How can you?
Yeah, I mean, it highlights the fact that, that the walkers may not be the worst threat out there.
Mm-hmm.
So you really have to be good at reading people and reading situations to lead, of which I am not convinced that Rick is.
No. The problem with Rick is, because of their urge for this straight white male protagonist, he's surrounded by a whole lot of tell, but not much sure to go with it. We're constantly told that every turn, Rick is special, Rick is important, Rick is amazing. But we never actually really see anything to back that up.
Well, that's just it. And all we hear is how great Rick is, and people thanking Rick, and without you, Rick. And I sit there and go, what? What are they talking about?
Exactly.
I haven't seen any of it. All I saw was a guy who gave up and went farming for a while. And he certainly didn't pull them out of the fire at Terminus.
Yeah.
So he's all about anger and revenge, and then he'll break.
Exactly. He's never really... There's not just... He hasn't done anything truly special. I mean, several characters has risen above and beyond what you expect of them, but Rick hasn't really been one of them.
Yeah, even in that very same episode, we saw Glenn negotiate with Abraham, proving to me that Glenn had more leadership skills than Rick. Glenn is savvy, he's loyal, he's tough, he knows when to fight and when to negotiate, which is something that Rick, who is his senior, still does not know.
Rick instantly turned to, domination, control.
He went all alpha male, is what he did. And not seeing, basically you have two alpha males screaming at each other. Neither one of them is going to give in that situation.
Exactly. It was Glenn who had to show them another way. And in some ways even offer himself as sacrifice when Tara stepped forward as well. He said, we'll go with you no matter what. It was... he stepped forward to get things done rather than ensure that the right person stayed in charge and made sure his authority was respected.
And to me, that's telling.
Exactly. And it's a problem because again we see characters stepping up and doing something above and beyond, as we've seen Michonne do, as we've seen Carol do, and Rick doesn't have anything in his ledger which compares.
No, he really doesn't.
But everyone, the only thing that makes him a leader is that everyone follows him. But everyone follows him because he's a leader. It's this strange kind of twisted little circle.
Well, it all started because when this all began, Rick and Shane were law enforcement. So there
Mm-hmm.
were still vestiges of society around, right? And people follow hierarchy. So most people, at least white people, are raised to understand, to see the police as, authority figures that who can be trusted,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that sort of helped cement Shane and Rick as authority figures, and it never stopped from there. And that is Rick's big claim to fame. I used to be a small town sheriff.
But it's been a long time now for that to still be holding. Especially after his little
I
holiday
can't
as
see
a
anything
farmer.
beyond that. Well, I can't see anything beyond that. Can you?
No, not really. I mean, there's been times when he's stepped up and been a decent member of the group, but so has everyone else. Yeah, I can't see him having done anything which you can point to and say, this is why Rick is the leader, this is why Rick is in charge.
Mm-hmm.
In some ways, I think that's one of the reasons Carol wasn't here today, because the minute the terminus people started saying, oh, they're hunting us, what shall we do? Carol would have had a plan. In fact, Carol would have probably said, here's their heads, I collected them earlier.
Yes. I mean, Carol can read a situation. She's proven that she can read a situation, that she can make the hard decisions based in that.
And she's reached
But
that
Rick
level
hasn't.
a little earlier.
I'm sorry. By killing Karen, good of the many,
Mm-hmm.
and she knew with Lizzie, just look at the flowers, sweetheart.
Exactly.
That
She
this,
knew what needed to be done.
and she did it. It was hard, but she did it.
And she would have been with the core group who weren't horrified killing the Terminus people.
No, she wouldn't have been horrified looking on. She would have just, well, you got what you were looking for.
Yep.
You know? I mean, they've even softened up Tyrese now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In some ways, it's interesting because he's playing a very nurturing role, which is interesting to see, but I want to see if they can balance that. Can they make him nurturing without making him weak, and can they make him gentle and nurturing and supportive, which is not a role we generally put black men in, without also making him weak and inferior compared to the white men, which is unfortunately something which could happen with Daryl and Rick around.
Already happening. Between him and Gabriel the Coward, black men aren't doing well on The Walking Dead this season.
But particularly since we've also taken out Bob now, so we really kind of do need. I like to see Tyrese being nurturing and kind and gentle because they are stereotype breakers, but we need more than that. We need to see that he's still strong. We need more evidence of his strength and the fact that he is an equal participant in the group, and someone worthy of being co-leader like he was in the comics.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm happy to see him being a caregiver and nurturing and kind because that is rare, but that can't be it. They can't turn him into the Manny.
Which is what's happening.
Yeah. So we need to do more than what we've got.
I mean, at this point, Carl is tougher than Tyrese.
Which is, it can't work like that, and it never used to be like that. They've got to pull it back. If they're going to go for this new direction, which it has potential, but they need to make sure they tread it carefully, and so far they're not doing so.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm interested to see what's going to happen now because they've split the group, and I'm wondering I said last week how the group is too big. The group there's too many people there, and short of killing off a lot more people, which again, as I said last week, is probably going to have to be people of colour and or Tara, because there's no one else who is expendable in the group because of the characterization. This may be a way they've sort of come round it, but at the same time that means Glenn, Maggie, Tara and Abraham's trio all disappearing for do we know how long? Is it going to be a 1 episode break or what?
I don't know. And what bothers me, I mean, he said, "Come on out," would suggest that he came back with a group of people to make the group even larger. And if the next mission is save she who's taken to her bed,
Oh, I think
I'm
it's.
not even remotely interested in that.
I think not only is it going to be safe, she goes taken to her bed, but we're going to have a whole storyline with Beth maybe partially rescuing herself and saying, "Oh look, she's tough, really." Which is, yeah, come on. I mean, are we supposed to turn around and go, "Oh look, Beth is kicking ass now"? When there's Carol. We've done that. We've had the delicate, sheltered, abused, or what relatively meek person
Hmm.
come out of their shell during the whole zombie apocalypse and become kick-ass and dangerous. We had it with Carol. To a degree, we even had it with Michonne. I'm not sure if we need to repeat that with Beth, but that it's either going to be that or it's going to be rescuing the damsel, which is
I just want
also going to be kind of awesome.
Beth to be Walker food. Yeah, I'm good with Beth being Walker food.
Well, if we were going to remove some excess characters, I mean, as you're saying, we don't need more adding. We really do not need more adding to this.
It looks like we're going to have a small aside. I will, however, say that I'm not going to miss Mullet Boy.
Oh, Eugene.
Yes, while he's gone. I
Yeah.
think it's unfortunate because I know Eugene. I know what happened with Eugene.
Yeah.
So having been a fan of the comic, so every time Eugene opens his mouth, it just wants me to, makes me want to say, "Shut up." I have a reflexive disgust towards him.
Yeah, it's kind of. I know what happens to you in the comics. I'm not impressed, and every time he speaks again, he said, "Yeah, not impressed," which does have a problem.
Yeah, I'm bothered by Eugene. So him not being there doesn't upset me. I am sad that it means Glenn and Maggie are off.
Yeah, particularly
Because I
since
think
Glenn. Sorry, go on. Go.
I think they're good characters, and that negotiating scene was character growth for Glenn. It
It
all got
was.
overshadowed by the gore and the testosterone, but there was some real character growth with Glenn
Yeah.
in that scene.
Particularly since I think Glenn, along with Maggie and Tara, has been a bit too quiet this season. And again, that's
Mhm.
part of the thing. It's such a big group that they've kind of not been. We haven't really. They haven't done an awful lot. We haven't paid a lot of attention to them.
Yeah.
So I'm upset in a way that not only have we not paid a lot of attention so far, but Glenn has this one moment of really important growth, and now he's gone. And if he's gone,
Mm.
how long
It's gonna
before
be
we see
forgotten.
more from them again?
I will, however, say that if Daryl came back with a black guy, I'm gonna spit my freaking dummy out.
Well, look, we have now got our T-Dog chain again. I mean, Bob was more than the T-Dog T-Dog chain, but still, it's going to look dubious if he does.
Yeah,
Hella
well,
dubious.
especially because Bob went out as the wise Negro.
Giving wisdom to the great and superior Rick.
And thanking him for all he has done.
Which is very little, is again more tell not sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Another thing I want them to do more with is Michonne, when the conflict on her face, which was really well acted, when she picked up her sword again. I think that's all part and parcel of this whole "what are we becoming" theme. Because
Mm-hmm.
we've already had her make this big speech about how she did not want the sword, she did not want to be a weapon, she wanted to be more than a killer. And then there's a sword there. It's a case of, well, we know what she wants, but does she have that luxury? I think that's going to be quite an important element.
Yeah, she doesn't have that luxury.
Exactly. So I just hope they develop that. I'm
I
not
mean,
with a great deal of expectation for them to do so, but I do hope.
no, she doesn't have that luxury, and it's clear by the fact that Gabriel ran inside the church to hide like a coward.
Mm-hmm.
Michonne was the one. I mean, it was interesting in terms of gender, because it's usually the guy leaping forward to protect the woman, but it was the other way around.
Yeah.
But
I
it's
mean,
also clear Michonne is still, weapon-like,
yeah.
because Gabriel runs off and Michonne goes to face whatever danger lies out there.
I think we also, it was an interesting thing with him saying this is the house of God, and Maggie saying, no, it's four walls and a roof. We're making it clear that, again, he's running and hiding. There are no sanctuaries here. There's nowhere you can hide.
I also think it shows a final break from her father.
Yeah.
Because her father was a very, very religious man, walked around with a Bible. I mean, his reason for not killing the walkers is because, he believed they were people and thou shalt not kill and all of these things. I think it shows us how far Maggie has come since the
Exactly.
day her father died. Because I don't believe if her father was still alive, she would have made that statement.
Which in turn, it goes on with this whole, what have we become, what are we becoming? Because this is the transformation, the loss of hope, the loss of faith. So yeah, I think it's quite powerful.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of hope that they do it well. That's the main thing, because there's going to be a lot to examine here.
Yeah.
And the thing is, you look at that and you go, well, someone in the writing team has put a lot of thought into this. I mean, they had that line said, and they made sure it was Maggie who said it because of that.
Yes. I picked up on it. I wonder how many people did, though.
Mm-hmm.
Because the big talk on The Talking Dead was how hot Garrett was and how articulate Garrett was. What a shame Garrett's character didn't last longer. That was it.
Mm-hmm. It's sorry, I've had a little bit of a cut out on the volume there. No, the volume went off on my side.
I was saying that the big talk on The Talking Dead was how hot Garrett was, and how it's a shame Garrett's character didn't last longer. And that was essentially it. I think a lot of the deeper things that happened in that episode were overlooked because the cute white guy got killed brutally.
So that's a real shame, because there was a lot there.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot to unpack this episode, and that's really kind of, yeah, it's beneath the turn of the show. I mean, yeah, someone died, everyone dies, but the brutal death is just the pinnacle of what else is happening here.
Well, there's also the idea of Ricky the badass, because he promised Garrett he was going to kill him
Hello?
with that red machete.
Yeah.
Hello?
Hello?
Yes. He promised. I'm still here.
Yeah. Go.
He promised Garrett he was going to kill him with that red machete, and he did. So the idea being Rick is a badass, keeps his promises. Now you have to fear whatever threat he makes because he's going to follow through on it. That was their idea of backing up Rick.
Which again is just so it's such a lacking interpretation. It's a case of why. So we're going to say, oh look how amazing this was that Rick went forward with his threat. The point of this one was not that Rick went forward with his threat, but that the whole group gathered to massacre someone, not because Rick was saying, oh, rah, 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 I'm just so dangerous, I'm just so lethal, but because it was considered necessary, and because the group has reached a point in their moral journey, as it were, that yes, they have accepted this as unnecessary. Not because, oh my god, Rick is such a badass, rah, he's such a badass. Which is, it's such a shallow reading of the scene when there's such a lot more there.
I don't disagree with you, but I think that's what I see it. I see it as something they were trying to push, and not subtly either. Because Rick, point blank said, "I have a promise to keep to you," and his weapon choice.
And it's a shame because, and it's a shame by doing that, because they take away the messages they've put in. There's all that message they've put in, and then they ruin it all by doing that. Because if there was no need for that, there was no need to emphasize that element.
Yeah.
You know, it's just kind of annoying. Say, this show can be more. This show is more. This show is showing us more. Um, with the conflict, and then it says, yeah, but this is more important.
Hmm. It's the ongoing problem with The Walking Dead.
Mm-hmm. It's the kind of thing where they're trying. They're pushing. It's like they've got someone who's genuinely artistic and has ideas and lots of messages and wants to push them and show the full emotional drama. And then they've got some action writers who just want to go for the action and the raw and the room, and he tends to overwhelm.
Yes.
It's a shame, but we should probably move on because we've got so much to cover in so little time. Because we've got shows which have come back. So shall we hit on Grimm and Constantine, and we'll keep on moving from there.
Grimm.
Grimm.
Juliet's gonna make me hate her.
I am so very done with it.
Her someone she loves very deeply was violated in the worst way possible, and all she can care about is, um, he may have cheated on me. Look what he did.
Well, that's exactly how she's treating him. She's treating him as an adulterer. She's all right. She's perhaps a bit more forgiving than most people will be with an adulterer, but that's the turn of it. She's treating him as an adulterer, and she is being kind for what tolerance she's giving to that. She is
Well,
grudgingly understanding at best.
the point is too, she's telling people in a way to shame him.
Yeah.
She makes sure Hank knows about it, and Rosalie knows about it, and Trouble knows about it, and everybody's got to know about it.
Yeah.
There's no respecting of his privacy or how he might feel about it. It's me, it's about my pain, and I want you to empathize with what I'm going through.
And not only is she giving him no right to actually keep this a secret, what was done to him, but she's not wording it like that either. She's not even wording it as something that was done to him. It's Nick slept with her.
Yes.
It's Nick and Adeline did this. Nick then has to come in and explain and excuse himself. So rather than even framing it as this is, I mean, not only is she violating his privacy, but she's not even giving him the chance to say, yes, this happened to me, and have people sympathise with him or offer support. She's putting him in a position where he has to apologise or excuse.
What did it for me? What was the last straw for me? Is she waits outside that damn house for the police to clear it till late at night, walks over all kinds of blood and gore, no reaction, but then snatches up that purple nightie and throws it in the garbage with the worst kind of venom.
It's the case. She's not. It's clear that it's not a case of, oh my god, how dare you do this to Nick? I could never wear this nightie again because of what it may make Nick think of. It'll make Nick think of what happened to him. No, it is hair rage because that is the nightie which represents Nick cheating on her.
Yes. Yes. And I thought this is the worst way to treat a rape victim. And I don't even know if the writers of the show are cognizant of the fact that they have a, yeah, I'm here. I don't even know if the writers of the show are cognizant of the fact that they've turned Nick into a rape victim.
I don't think so. I don't think they are. There's absolutely no attempt to treat this right.
Which is actually kind of, I mean, in some ways it's stunning, in others it's just a sad display of the way rape male victims aren't given any sympathy or empathy by society, assume that, hey, it's sex, so they must have enjoyed it,
Yeah. There's this idea that, man is unrapeable, particularly by someone who is attractive or of the gender that they would prefer to be with. And the idea of, oh, he was raped by a woman, yes, but she's a hot woman, how could he possibly object?
Yeah, it wasn't exactly rape. They'll twist and turn and whatever, and ooh, lucky guy. But all I see is I see the violation, and I wish
Yeah,
we would see more of Nick reacting to this. I would have loved it if he'd snapped at Juliet because she had it coming.
yeah.
But I don't think Grim is smart enough to do something like that.
I don't think Nick will. Nick is never. They're not going to snipe at Juliet because Juliet has been cast as the victim here,
Which is
which
wrong.
it is so wrong. But that's it. Juliet is the victim here. Nick now has to make it up to Juliet. Nick almost is cast as having to be ashamed
Hmm.
and penitent for what he did, which is just ridiculous. And I'm worried about how many more episodes we're going to have to see of this.
I think it's particularly bad because it's tied to the loss of his grimminess, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So now it turns, he was raped and now he's being punished for being raped by losing his grimminess. It doesn't, it really takes away from any kind of recognition of what Nick is.
Yeah. It's
They're painting him as just, ooh, this bad boy who couldn't keep it in his pants. When it's the exact opposite is true.
it's shame because there is this sense that he's been punished for this. And yeah, the whole thing comes together in a really unpleasant way, and it's been going on now for a couple of episodes. So they're going to have to, what they're not going to, but to work it round, they're going to have to bring it round. They're going to have to challenge this.
Well, and the thing is, these kinds of things have happened before. I know that they use a magical thing here, right? But
Mm-hmm.
rape by deception has happened before, where you've had like twins pretend to be the other one and rape
Yeah,
their sibling's partner. It's happened before. It's not that removed from reality if you take away the magical aspect of it. And to me, that
yeah,
makes the treatment of it that more disturbing. So, if rape happens by deception, we're not supposed to take it seriously because a person consented thinking that they were sleeping with somebody else.
yeah. And this is something which has happened. It's quite relevant in the UK because there's been a recent scandal where a number of undercover police presenting themselves to be activists in the various organisations they were infiltrating had sex, long-term relationships, and even children with activists inside that group. They created an entirely fake resume, an entirely fake history for who they were, what they were doing. And on the strength of those lies, they had sex with people in that movement.
Yeah,
And
that's right.
and that is rape. And we have a terrible understanding of any kind of rape that doesn't involve literally holding someone at knife point and pinning them to the floor.
Anything that affects a person's ability to consent makes it rape. It's
Exactly.
plain and simple. If a person can't consent properly, does not have all the knowledge or their faculties to consent, any sexual activity is rape.
Mm-hmm.
There shouldn't be any kind of blurred line or any kind of nonsense surrounding this. It's rape. And I just thought, you know, having a male rape victim treated this way only cements the idea that men are unrapeable. And
Yeah.
Grimm, unless they fix this, should be very ashamed of themselves.
It's a gross flaw in the middle of the show, and
Unnecessary.
it is unnecessary. It's
It
completely.
doesn't add anything to the plot.
They could just have easily have had Adeline give Nick a potion.
Hmm.
There was no reason why this magic had to be vagina based.
Oh, yes. Because women are evil, and so are our vaginas.
Yeah, which is an extra level of fail on an already epically fail problem.
Hmm.
So Grimm, no. Which is a shame because, I mean, Wu is coming close to the big secret. He should have been told a lot sooner, but maybe he's finally going to get told. And Trouble is an interesting character, and we'll see how she works into a solo Grimm. And I like little things like her going to the caravan without Nick, because it's a case of, well, if she's the Grimm in town,
Yeah, you can't tell anyway.
yeah, I said, do you become the sidekicks now, Nick?
which will work until Nick gets his grimminess back, because he will get it back. They
Oh,
will
he will
keep.
get it back. He needs to get it back. I want him to get it back, but it should be an interesting story on the way.
And can I just say, if I were Rosalie and
Monroe.
Monroe, I'd have hopped on that boat and left. They've already had their wedding ruined, and now their honeymoon. Nuh-uh. Bye-bye.
The problem I have with it is that they are so. I mean, at one time, every now and again, you get a little thing like them all having a big family dinner, and it's clear it's Nick, Rosalie, Juliet, and Monroe. I mean, or sometimes they're having takeaway in front of a television. You know, we want to see more of these scenes where make it clear to us, make it clear they spend social time together, they go out together, they enjoy each other's companies. Convince me they're friends rather than just only showing Nick and Rosalie and Monroe running to Nick and Julia, and usually interrupting important parts of their life for them as well, because that happens a lot as well.
Well, which is exactly why they should have left. I mean, their wedding was ruined, for crying out loud.
I can understand not blaming Nick for it and everything, but to make some of this more swallowable and less, making this relationship look so horrendously one-sided, we need to see the social connection. All right, Juliet and Monroe constantly drop everything Rosalie and Monroe constantly drop everything for Nick and Juliet. That's fine. I have friends I would do that for, but that's because they're my friends. So show me this friendship that is so profound that it's understandable that that Rosalie and Monroe would constantly do this.
Show me that it works two ways.
Yeah, that's another
That's
thing as
more
well.
important. More than just the dinner and maybe the nights out together. Show me that it works two ways. Show me Nick dropping something he finds important to brush off and help Monroe with. Just one time, at least.
Yeah, I think that would make a huge difference. Just show that this is something which goes two ways. Show that these are people who equally value each other. Show that they have the connection. Show that this is real
Mm-hmm.
and not just extras thrown in to be a servant. I
Agreed.
think it's not just Grimm which does this. I think a lot of shows and a lot of books, certainly, particularly with marginalised.
Characters, yep.
Yeah, need to get this sorted out as well.
Mm-hmm.
But if they do, I mean, that is another element they've got to go. Otherwise, I mean, it sounds like I've complained a lot about this. No, this is just so wrong. But it was a good episode beyond that.
Yes, I agree.
And I'm interested and in there. I'm not quite sure if there needs to be a Vestin of the Week with everything else that's going on. And
I think that Vesson is going to tie into the larger story. I don't think it's necessarily Vesson of the Week. I think it's going to tie into the larger story, because now you have an FBI Vesson,
yeah,
who's investigating, and I hope we see more of Special Agent Chavez,
yeah,
as a counter to sort of Hank and Wu. Wu exists to give his little cracks and snarks and things like that, and Hank simply follows Nick's lead. And Chavez has no such loyalty, so she's going to do her own thing. And I'd like to see a character of color on Grimm in any way, shape, or form.
yeah. Another interesting storyline I'm looking forward to seeing more of is Reynard being. I mean, obviously he's not dead. Let's go without saying he's not dead. Let's
Better
just put
not
it
be
down
dead.
that he's not
I
going to be.
will spit my dummy out. But they cleared time of death. Oh my goodness.
No, he's not dead. And the reason I know he's not dead is because we've got this whole new storyline now raising itself. Of back in Austria,
Mm-hmm.
evil guy whose name I can't remember, Vincent or Victor or something. Anyway, made it clear that the king, Reynard's father, actually loves him, which puts a whole new spin on the whole royal politics.
Yes, it does.
I would have thought that all the many, many times they tried to kill him in the previous seasons may have been a little dubious because of it, but it's still interesting to see where this
Yeah,
goes.
I laughed at that. I'm like, really? Now you're gonna cover your tracks?
Yes. Now you care about killing him? You had the Virat hunting him down with machine guns not so long ago.
So I was amused. A little retconning, but I was amused.
Yeah, I was. But still, I'm interested to see where that goes. It's another nugget to go through. We're going to have to move on again, I'm afraid. Unless you've got any more,
Okay.
because we've
Nope.
got so little time. New
Nope.
show, Constantine.
Yeah, I don't think we're meant to like him.
I kind of love him. Do you know who he reminds me of a lot? And not just because he's got the same kind of odd composite accent.
Who?
Will Scarlet from Once Upon a Time.
Oh dear. Ah.
I like
You're
him.
not thinking with your head. The minute you said that, I know you're no longer thinking with your head. Other parts of your anatomy, yes, but not your head.
I like him. I like him
Uh
a lot.
huh.
I
I'm
am
sure you
here for
do.
this, definitely. I am definitely behind Constantine. But he's also, there's a quality to his acting. You get this, he really is pulling off this world weary, I hate this, I hate everything here, I hate having to do this, I want to retire. He actually is one of the few times I've actually seen an actor in the genre sell angsty and tortured.
I don't know that I would say angsty and tortured. I would say beaten down by
Yeah,
experience and just done. It's not angst. I mean, angst is something you see on the Vampire Diaries or the originals. This is just, I've lived a hard life and I am tired. And that's a
yes.
different thing entirely than angst, I believe.
World weariness. He's got this really well done world weariness.
Yes.
He is tired. He's done his bit, and it's gone terribly wrong. He just kind of wants to go home and make it not happen. He's got some demons. He's haunted, and the thing is, this is usually the kind of character I hate. The angsty, tortured, tired, weary, broken down, straight cis white guy who leads the show. No, yawn. Seen it on Dominion. Seen it on Vampire Diaries. Seen it everywhere. Seen it on originals. Seen it on Walking Dead. I've seen it on every single show out there, but I don't dislike this.
Okay. I mean, I think he is pulling it off as well,
Yeah,
but I also think that there's a tinge of anti-hero about him.
I
Whereas Walking Dead always tries to convince us that Rick is good, we should love Rick and invest in Rick, and Rick is the guy. I don't think that's the route Constantine is going to take. I think they're going to. There are times when you're going to hate him and it's going to be justifiable. He's not a
yeah,
good man. I think he's supposed to be the anti hero that we are conflicted about.
yeah. I think it's going to go that way because he is he's not a nice guy, and he's not supposed to be a nice guy. He's not even going to try to be a nice guy. He's not even going to really try to be a nice guy who is forced terribly to do terrible situations. He
Hmm.
is a guy who is probably on the whole good, but he's in a situation where you just don't do nice. There is no nice in this context.
Yes. It's also worth pointing out that we had a lot of women as victims
Mm-hmm.
between Astra, Liv, and Talia. That's three. That's basically who appeared in his show, and they were in the show as women, and they were all victims. It had me thinking of Supernatural, and I
Yeah.
wonder if women dying is going to be an incentive for Constantine because he keeps flashing back to Astra. Is this a thing we're going to be doing?
Well, I think this is a thing. From what I've heard from behind the scenes, that was originally going to be the main thrust, and Liv was going to be his ongoing sidekick. But the reason the ending was Liv deciding to give it up is because they decided to change even after they cast it, they changed their mind about the way the entire season was going to go.
Really?
And Liv is now been written out. That's it. That's the last you will see of Liv.
Huh.
He's now getting a new female sidekick. Only from what I read, this one's going to be much more kick-ass, proactive, and in some ways another not particularly nice person doing what they have to do in a particularly unpleasant situation.
I could live with that.
So I think maybe they were starting out having, the female sidekick who was a seer, lots of female victims, and then at the last minute they said, no, actually, we're not doing that. And so I don't know. This is the thing about it, though, is we now can't particularly say what's going to happen from here because we don't know what's going to happen from here. But they had the pilot, and now one of the main characters in the pilot, who was supposed to be a regular, one of the main characters, is not there anymore. It's almost like episode 2 is going to be a second pilot.
Well, I look forward to see if they make what changes they make then.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens from here on. So this is with anything, I always have a 6-episode rule anyway. I'll make some major things after 6 episodes have gone by. But on the pilot, I'm intrigued but wary. We shall see what comes from here.
I'm open. I mean, you can't judge anything by the first time. You can't judge anything.
The pilot isn't. The pilot gives you an idea, but no more than that. I don't really have anything else to add on Constantine beyond the fact that it was kind of awesome. Do you want to rush on to another one?
Sure.
Z Nation, I think. I have to admit, when Warren kind of crawled into a bottle, I was sort of wary. Because I thought, oh, is this the lead up to Warren being somehow something other than leader? But no, at the end they turned it round, and it was actually, for Z Nation, it was some pretty amazing acting of grief and loss and the whole despair of the world. She pulled it off before stepping to her leader of things. It made sure that the death wasn't completely meaningless, and in some ways kind of set Warren up as a leader, because everyone was saying, we need Warren. Warren needs to step up. No one else is going to get this done. And Murphy even outright said it. Mac and Addie aren't going to be leaders. The kid's too young, Doc's too old, and no one's going to follow him.
Yeah, well, I think we know who the leader's going to come out to be. She had to have her moment of angst. And mourning, really.
Yeah.
She really did lose, to make it clear that she loved him and that she lost something in him. Yeah, but she's gonna, and let us know that, she may have been his second, but she was tough in her own right. Now she's picking herself up. I thought it was a necessary transition.
It was. I think they did it really well, and I'm kind of interested. Another thing I'm really surprised about this episode is I've been saying for a while now, are they going to go angsty, are they going to go jerky? Is this going to be a comedy? Is this going to be ridiculous? Or is it going to be deep and meaningful? And it didn't seem to know itself. This episode, it kind of pulled both of them off. Because we had Warren's really kind of deep scenes there of pain and loss, and really well done. And in between that, we had the shooting competition in which people put a bullet through the bullet hole that was already there. Old man zombie running around with his trousers around his ankles. We seem to get... It did actually manage both of them. So I'm wondering, maybe I didn't give it enough credit. Maybe they can do it.
Well, I mean, you saw a little bit of, with the whole shooting competition, and it was funny.
Yeah.
Right. There was a little bit of humor in it. The zombie, becoming a zombie on the shitter.
Exactly.
So I think they're going to go back and forth between it all.
It's just a matter of where they find their balance. So we are running late. I'm trying to do a whistle stop. Was there anything else on Z Nation?
Are we going to see more of that Asian woman that Zombie 10,000 was interested in?
I don't
Or
think so, which is
10,000?
a shame. I mean, normally I have no little time for love interests in dystopians, but I kind of wanted to go with them. I wanted to see 10K and this woman blossom in true love over killing things with ridiculously over-the-top skills.
Mm-hmm.
But I doubt it. I doubt it severely. I think that's the last we've seen of her.
Oh, I hope not. I hope that she makes an appearance again. I mean, I like the fact that they seem to have. It would help the ratio a little bit more.
Yeah,
Although having a black woman in the lead is pretty good to me.
it is. I'd also like Cassandra to step up a little more. That'd also be pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And so he bites the guy and he doesn't turn. He
Yeah.
really is the cure.
Yeah, it's an odd way to do the cure, but yes, it seems that his bite prevents you turning.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be interesting to see where they go with that. Right. Was there other shows we need to talk about this week, or can wait till next week? Vampire Diaries, blah. Is my only comment on that episode.
Pretty much.
I'll probably hit it again just to see how broken it is, but I think that can wait for next week. Any others which we desperately had to cover this week because time's running on, unfortunately?
Yeah, no, that's it for me.
In which case we should probably hit the book of the week. Sorry we're all a little scattered this week. I do blame time zones and daylight savings, and of course Renee, because our book of the week this week was Midnight's Daughter by Karen Chance, the first book in the Darina Basarab series.
Mm-hmm.
On the whole, I kind of liked it, but I did feel this book had maybe 4 or 5 good plot ideas, and for some reason, all of them were put in this book. And maybe one of them should have been left behind.
I really think that it's classic Karen Chance. I haven't read all of her books to date. This is what if you are a Karen Chance fan and you read this book, you are going to find all the elements in the series that you love, and you will love them. That's the way I kind of see it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there wasn't anything special to put. Um, Dory is a different kind of protagonist than Cassie. Dory is more rage-ridden. You know, she's angry a lot. I mean, it seems that she's justified reasonable to be angry. She's been abandoned. She's had what she believed to be her family killed in front of her, and she's been tortured numerous times. You can see that there's reason for her rage. The problem is they turn that rage into part of who she is, being a damn Vera. Makes her this way, rather than her being filled with rage because it's justifiable. I would have preferred the latter.
Mm-hmm. I think what got me about these is I didn't dislike either of the main characters per se. I think they were all kind of interesting. But I think they had an interesting story, and they managed to avoid some of the worst excesses. Like, for example, Dory, they did make her rage, and they did make her rage part of who she is, but at least they didn't present it as strength, which is something we see a lot in the urban fantasy genre. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
look, Haley's gone around punching international policemen. Isn't she a strong woman?
Yeah.
The problem is, I was looking at it, and they're just so typical, you know? You've got Dory, who is a kick-ass urban fantasy protagonist with anger issues, who is quite rare in terms of her supernatural type, and then you've got her partnered with Louis César, who is a sexy French vampire who has a tortured past, and it's like it's a big book of urban fantasy 101. Take 1 cup angry fighting female protagonist, 1 cup sexy French vampire, staring angst, sprinkled with tragic past, behold urban fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
It was very good as far as these templates go. I mean, they both subverted lots of tropes. The sexy love interestness didn't distract from the main plot, or as I said, plots all squished together. And the pacing was pretty good, though we did spend a good part of the book with Dory going, I need to buy illegal weapons, sell me some. We don't have any, okay? Action scene, action scene. You, sell me illegal weapons. We don't have any, okay? Action scene, action scene. You, sell me illegal weapons. Okay, we've covered the shopping trip part of the story.
Mm-hmm.
Can we move on to doing what she's supposed to be, which is hunting her Uncle Dracula?
Yes.
Sorry, go on.
I think it would have made more sense if you'd finally found a weapon that came in handy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's the problem there.
Yeah, and that's the thing, the fact they didn't actually end up with anything. It's like, well,
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, a little... But in this whole, I like the plot. I do think they should have dropped some. I like the characters, but I do think they're a little cliched. I like the writing, though I do think we spent just a little too much time on a scene that didn't need to be there. I think they probably should have dropped the Faye storyline. I don't think the Faye storyline and Claire in that storyline was particularly necessary.
Well, otherwise they wouldn't have had motivation to have Dory do what she did.
I think they could have kept the motivation and then had maybe the grand revelation about Claire tacked in either at the end or to be introduced in a later book. It felt a little too much going on. I was like, what side's going on here?
Mm.
Sorry, I was just going to move on to the diversity issues.
Okay, go ahead.
Right, on marginalised people, we do have a little issue here. First of all, this book was presented to us as the book where we can see all of the minorities which we complained about being erased. There was a whole post on this, I'm sure everyone remembers the drama, on Fangs of Fantasy. You can find it in our discussions, analysis and musings page, and we were told by the author no less, read this book because this is where the diversity is. Read this series because this is where diversity is. Though by told, I think it was more we were accused of avoiding this book because we didn't want to read the diversity. Which, yeah, well, words can't really encompass how I feel about that. However, having read this book, I can only assume that the rest of the series will bring in a lot more diversity than we saw here. There was one person of colour mentioned, but they were dead before they actually got any screen time, as it were. Casanova's described as swarthy, but given that he's Casanova, I take that to mean he's probably Mediterranean/olive-skinned more than...
Well, that's what the real Casanova was Italian, right?
Yeah. No. Spanish, I think. I'm not...
Maybe Venetian.
It was Mediterranean, though.
Yes.
So I don't really go there. And again, it was a vanishingly small role. So that's not exactly encouraging either. So, and that was kind of it as far as people of colour go. As far as women go, as I've described Dory, she's not a bad character, and she had a lot of positive points. She was strong, she was capable, she had raid issues but didn't present them as a source of strength or empowerment. She was sexual without being distracted and obsessed with it, which far too many fantasy protagonists are. She was a generally interesting character, but she was also surrounded by a lot of men. We did have a couple of other female characters, Claire and Olga, but we didn't exactly see them much. But again, she didn't hate them, and they were actually decent characters in their own right, with their own skill set and their own capability. I particularly like the ending with Olga. I thought that was quite an interesting little twist. But again, it's still a largely all-male book. And then we get to Radu. Now, we were told that Radu is a gay character. However, reading this book, I don't really see it particularly. I mean, he could be, but there's no labelling of him as gay in this book, except for him apparently having an affair or having a relationship with Mehmet II, a man who held him hostage. But the way it's described, even he says there was no love there. He describes the guy who took him hostage as propositioning him when he was 11 years old, and Radu having to try and fight him off with a sword.
Yes.
And Dracula describes how Radu whored himself out so he wasn't tortured. This isn't a gay man. This is a man who resorted to using his body to protect himself from being tortured. This was a man who was abused and raped. That makes no indication of him being gay at all in the text of this book. And maybe it's made more clear in the second and third book in this series. But by the first book alone, you cannot point to Radu and say he's gay because he was once held hostage by a man who raped him. And that's ludicrous. And we have a little Witches of East End situation here, because if Radu is gay, that means he is a Vernich member of the Basarab family who, unlike his brothers, cannot fight, cannot ride, cannot follow the traditional manly pursuits of his time and place, and despite being like a 15th century Romanian prince, decides to dress as a 17th century French aristocrat because of all the crushed velvet. Darina even refers to him as Ponzi.
Yes.
So there's no indication he is gay, and if he is, this is not good representation.
I think the only reason we know is because we have word of author saying it.
Yeah, and I give no credit to word of gay authors
at this point, but there's definitely nothing explicit other than the fact that he's a walking trope of stereotypes.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm not particularly impressed by that. And now maybe there's more to it in the later books in the series, because it did say the Darina Basarab series, but so far it's not great. And frankly, even if we say yes, he's definitely gay, it's not good anyway. So either no, he's not gay, or yes, he is gay and he's a walking trope. I mean, there's no choices here.
Yeah, none of them are good.
Yeah, I can't really see a good way out of this, short of Radu's character being rather heftily developed more than it has been. So yeah, I think on diversity issues, it's not good, and it's a shame because I was actually looking forward to this book because I haven't read a book with a decent cast of diverse characters, and certainly not a book with an LGBT character in it for quite some time. And with it's actually been presented to us as a book which would definitely address all these issues we complained about, I kind of expected better. Well, no, to be honest, I didn't expect better because I'm pretty cynical by this point. But, I had a hope. But
yeah,
maybe the next two books will be better, but
I don't think so.
Yeah, I'm not. I haven't.
It's never been her thing, and I'm not surprised that it continues not to be her thing. It's a shortcoming, no doubt. I mean, the story itself is interesting, but as far as being inclusive, it's not. Karen Chance just doesn't write those kind of stories, no matter what she may tell.
So it was a good book. It was definitely an interesting story. I'm going to read the second and third book in the series and actually look forward to them. I want to read more. I enjoyed this book. I will probably enjoy the next two, but it wasn't what it was billed to us as. So, and maybe that'll change, but it probably won't. So we shall see.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I've definitely finished out the series. She'll be one of the few authors that I've read all of her books by the time I'm done.
Which will be... It's always good then. I like to read entire series, as you may have guessed by now. I find it gives me more of a grounding on just generally putting together all the tropes. I also find you can read things through a better lens when you've read everything an author's written. I remember if you go back to some of our earliest podcasts in the archives, you can hear about how we changed how we looked at the Suki Stackhouse series by Charlene Harris after we'd read the Aurora Teagarden series, for example.
Mm-hmm.
I still have nightmares.
That'll always be our standard for the worst, though. Charlene
know.
Harris has that.
But yes, so we will be reading all three of these trilogies, so we'll see what comes forward. I think it's a trilogy. There may be more coming, but so far I think there's 3 books and a few short stories.
Mm-hmm.
Our book of the week for next week is, oh dear God, why? Prince Lestat by Anne Rice.
Yeah, that's your doing.
It's entirely your fault.
Mm-hmm.
Well, will be interesting to see after this long break in the vampire series if the series does take a change in direction, turn, writing, wording, anything with this now long-awaited return. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, who knows? Anne Rice may have changed quite considerably. She may have returned to her interview roots.
You're dreaming.
I live in hope.
That Wolf series alone lets me know nothing has changed.
But we have started this series, so it will finish. It takes a lot to make us break up on a series, as you can see by certain series in our book review list, which are now up to 20 books.
Yes.
And I will keep reading them, and they will get better. But until then, we will keep on plugging away and pointing out what is not quite up to what we'd like it to be. But still, I've got to go in with an open mind and expect the best. Because you never know. You really do. The times I've had authors actually turn around and really change and become a lot better, it has happened. It can happen. And if it doesn't, I can still share the pain with you.
Oh, gee, thanks for that.
I know. I'm just generous to a fault. On that note, I'm sorry we kind of ran a little late, guys. It is actually an hour earlier in the UK because we did go back. We put the clocks back. Apparently the rest of the world doesn't put the clocks back at the same time, which is clearly the rest of the world's fault. So I think we'll see you all at the same time at the same place, because I will know then. Where we'll continue to discuss all of the shows if we've missed any this week, which we find in reflection, and anything else that turns up during the week, and we will read our book of the week and tell you just how much we adored it. Until then, you can find us on Fangs for Fantasy, Twitter, Book Likes, Goodreads, Library Thing, Facebook, all of which are Fangs for the Fantasy. That's the number 4 on Twitter. And if you've missed any of our previous podcast episodes, you can find them all in the archive on the blog. So I hope to see you all next week. See you then.
Good night.
Good night.